Chapter 14. "So much for your precious quarantine," said Ackland softly. Noguchi closed her mouth. Miriam Revner and two local pilots were looking at a readout on a small screen across the lab. One of the pilots, Spanner, turned and grinned. "Hey, look what we found." He pointed at the creature unnecessarily. Hiroki took a step forward, towards it, and then paused. "Is it alive?" Miriam Revner stood and walked over. "Yes, it's injured, but not in any danger. At least I don't think so. 4 cracked ribs and extensive contusions in the dorsal region. And it's male, I'm fairly certain." Noguchi saw what she meant about the maleness. She couldn't miss it. The thing was a giant, maybe 2.5 meters tall, humanoid, but its head like some sort of mutated crab. It wore armor and was bound to the exam table by several thick straps of rinthhide. Its long taloned arms were speckled, reptilian, but not scaled. Noguchi saw the slight rise and fall of its chest. There was a mask over its face. What was it breathing, she wondered. After the initial shock, she tried to remember what the company's off-planet manual contained on the subject of possible XT encounters. Something like, "Avoid direct contact until trained personnel arrive." "Looks like we're going to write a whole new chapter." "We found a ship, too," Spanner said. "It's mostly blown to shit, but we should get a salvage team up there." Noguchi found her tongue. "Any idea what it is, Doctor?" Revner looked at her blankly. I'm sorry, I'm not thinking clearly today." Noguchi nodded. "Of course. We are still looking for Kazar. I just wondered if there was any connection between this and those unclassifieds that Roth brought in." The doctor shook her head. "This creature has a completely different cell structure, no relationship at all. She nodded at the monster. "Is more like us than those little crab-like things." Hiroki walked over to a table covered with pieces of the alien's armor. He held up a broken staff tipped with a vicious-looking blade. Quite an arsenal. Noguchi joined him and picked up a large chunk of dark metal with a strap. She could barely lift it. At closer inspection, it was apparently some kind of weapon, a rifle or a flamethrower. It was damaged. She set it down and picked up a mask. "This is stuff you'd pack for a hunting trip. Or an invasion," she said. "This guy's no peaceful explorer." Hiroki fingered the strap on the odd weapon. "I don't think that this is his first trip to Ryushi either. I can't place the rest of it, but this strap is definitely rinthhide." "Any sign of the dock?" Ackland nodded at the pilots. The slender young woman, Ikeda, sighed. "Negatory, but Iowa Gorge connects with a maze of canyons and arroyos. It'd be easy to get lost. We'll go back out pretty soon." There was a small shield of some kind with the other weaponry, a plate-sized disc with a strange-looking creature etched on it. Noguchi ran a finger over the blackened metallic substance. The drawing was the head of an unknown animal or bug, an elongated skull with sharp teeth and no eyes. She traced the outline thoughtfully. There was something familiar about it. Was it a dream? It was dark and hot. She looked again at the unconscious alien and shuddered. Maybe Doc Revner hadn't gotten lost. There was a scream from outside, followed by a crash. Noguchi started. What now? She and Hiroki ran to the door together, with Ackland behind them. A flyer had slammed into the transmitter building directly across from the med center. There was no fire, but a lot of oily smoke. A small body lay on the hot pavement next to the accident. Several others had come out of the op center and were also running towards the scene. Hiroki got there first. "What happened?" Noguchi called out. Hiroki knelt by the victim and carefully touched its face. "It's the Sheldon boy," he said. Noguchi looked down at the child's still, tear-streaked face and felt her heart tighten. So young. The boy opened his eyes and started to scream. Bobby woke up with a scream. It was hot, the air smelled burnt, and his parents. He sat up quickly and looked around. He was in Prosperity Wells. There were a bunch of people gathered around him, and the flyer lay nearby, broken. "Bobby?" said a calm voice. Mr. Shimura was next to him. "Are you hurt?" "Monsters," he whispered, and he started to cry. Miss Noguchi was there too. She leaned down next to Mr. Shimura and smiled at him. "It's okay, Bobby. You're safe now. What happened?" He closed his eyes, unable to stop the tears. "Monsters killed my dad, and then my mummy, and then before that they killed Dax, and we couldn't see them, but then I got away." He couldn't say anything else. He wanted to tell them how scared he had been, how there were so many of them, and how Dax had seen them first, but all that came out were loud sobs of terror and sadness. "Let's get him to the med center," someone said. Gentle hands lifted him off the burning ground and carried him away. One of his legs hurt really bad and he cried harder. Cool air washed over him as they went inside. The world dimmed. "We've got an emergency here, Doc," the person holding him shouted. "Mr. Shimura." Bobby opened his eyes and looked past Dr. Revner at the medical room, and he started to scream again. Just like the tears, he was unable to stop. Fear and hatred and sadness and anger for the thing they had lying on a table. "Monsters! Monsters! Monsters!" Deshande remembered movement after the loneliness of pain. The new pain. Once, he had opened his eyes and seen that he was indoors, in a moving ship. There had been heat, and then cool, and strange animal sounds. He realized he could see a little, but not focus. Dark and light shapes folded and formed in front of him. But now his gaze sharpened, just for a second, at the horrible cries of some creature in front of him. It screamed and howled its nonsense language, the thing. It was pale and little like an ooman. Deshande sank back into the quiet darkness. Fear fought to rise in him. He was caught by monsters.